Okay, everyone, let's see where everybody's at. Hopefully, everybody's able to join. Watch it as you shoot, Lynn. That is epic. Hey, Jason, how's it going? How's it going, Amber? I need to put up the chat somewhere where I can easily see it so I can see the chats coming in real time. Okay. Me and my squeaky chair. Okay, I think we are just going to dive into it. Um, since this is a recorded session, so anybody who's watching it either live or after the fact, definitely welcome. My name is Brian Avert. I'm with Photo Day Zombies, also Snapped in Time Photography, and I'm mostly just here to. John's throwing me off. Mostly just here to help you guys learn everything, all right? Because I want you guys to be successful. This is not paid. I'm not being sponsored in any way. I'm just wanting to help. John Riviera just asked a question. What's the max number of images you would feel safe to run without a machine crashing on the run? Are you talking about Team Builder or are you talking about sports photo automation? With Team Builder, I've built a couple hundred in a build and I didn't have any issues, but also it definitely depends on your machine itself. I tend to work on powerhouses, so I can definitely handle a larger workload. Um, my main PC is a Windows box. It is a custom gaming PC. Cost me about $1,600 to build, so it's definitely a beast. The Mac Mini obviously is only $600, but yeah, you can run a couple hundred through it easily, especially if you're doing single team builds. So if you're only building one team, then you don't really have to worry about the bloat of your Photoshop file as well. Um, so no, yeah, you could run a couple hundred through it, I believe. We can try it today if you want. Actually, that'll take a while to run. Even probably take about 10 minutes to run a couple hundred. It wouldn't be that bad. If we have time, we'll see. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over. Um, which one am I going to do? I'm going to do this one right here. So let's go ahead and do this. All right, so this is our office hours. Again, my name is Brian Averett. I have two businesses, one for shooting, so I am a photographer as well as an editor. Typically, I do more time editing right now. I was sponsored by Alkit Skylab. This is the whenever I was doing SPAC. I'm kind of using the same presentation because I'm covering all of the same things. And then if you're here, you likely already know what Pixnub is. They're leader in automation software for school and sports photography, and they basically save us hours, if not days or weeks, depending on the size of the job, on if we had to build everything by hand. Saves time, saves money, and the great thing about Pixnub is you get to use all your own templates. It is not proprietary to just whatever they sell. While they do have some phenomenal options out there for you, you're not required to just use them. You can use any template you design or from some of the other great designers out there. As you can tell, I'm a Don Ward fan with their creative, so I have a lot of his stuff. Prerequisites, you're going to need Photoshop as well as Adobe Creative Cloud and some sort of hopefully half decent graphics processing unit. And whenever you have Photoshop installed, you want to go and make sure your graphics processor settings are enabled. Scratch disk. Photoshop is notorious for taking up a lot of space, so make sure you get a scratch disk. If you have questions on this, definitely do a search in the Pixnub forum. There's probably plenty of people who have asked, or just reach out to me directly and I'll help direct you in the best way to go for scratch disk selection. Again, my PC says 1300 plus, but it was actually more than that. Yeah, so it's still technically accurate. This is my system that I run on right now. It's only got 64 gig of memory. and a 2 terabyte system drive, 12 gig video card. Again, pricey. Then I have a Mac Mini M4, $600. I did add a 2 terabyte scratch disk to it. So technically it'd be about $700, $750. But again, that $750 cost half as much as my PC, and it is still faster. So I edit on my main PC to design everything, and then I kick it off to run on my Mac 4, so I don't lock up my computer and I can still do things. And when I say lock up, I mean pretty much once you're running an automation, you really can't use it. So just don't use your computer while you're building teams or while you're running your sports photo automation or doing face crop or pretty much any of the automation batch processes that Pixnub does. All right, now to the good stuff. Easy Team Builder allows you to quickly and easily build teams for a folder of extractions. It can build a team in seconds or minutes, sorted by player size with automatic alignment, and it has customizable options. I say seconds or minutes because it'll build a team of 7 or 8 a whole lot faster than it'll build a team of 30 or 40 or more, like for some of the larger band or football organizations out there. I mean, there is large teams that you can be compiling. Hey, Raymond, what's up? So Easy Team Builder just it does it for you, or at least gives you the base framework for your team, but you're not having to go place everything by hand. That is the big thing. Additionally, not just also, doing them by hand, but you're not having to deal with the resizing to ensure that you have proper scaling and everything. It does it all for you. So here it is by the numbers. We're going to break down each one of the options for Easy Team Builder. The very first thing you have at the top is your cutouts folder. This is going to be the folder that has only the images that you want in your finished product. So if you shoot and you take 4 images per player, per kid, per adult, whatever you're shooting, but you take 4 of them, don't put all 4 of them in there, or else in your final team image, when you build it, it's going to have all 4 images. It doesn't filter at all. It says, hey, there are images in this folder. I'm going to throw it on the team. All right. So you want to make sure that you have only the images you want in your team build into that folder. You can create your own presets. Now, when you create presets, all you're doing is saving these values down here. All right. So you want to make sure that you figure out exactly what you want your style to be and what you're looking for before you go and save your preset. Making your own presets does build the consistency in your leagues. If halfway through you don't want to keep changing your scaling, or else you'll have some teams that just, they look bigger in the picture than the others, right? So our first option down here that we're going to work with are your layer names. You have a few different options, layer names, numerical, or by file name. Now the numerical, whenever it imports your images in, yeah, that's a good part, Raymond. Don't forget to export your presets. I'm going to back up just for a second. Sometimes during the upgrade process, so you see it all the time, Damon is hard at work and making these presets phenomenal, clearing out bugs, adding functionality. And so you want to make sure that you back up your presets, because when he pushes out an update and you go and install that update, it doesn't always save your presets, because more likely than not, if it doesn't, it's because Photoshop changed something in the back end and it caused it not to pull those presets over. So it's not Damon's fault. It's going to be Photoshop's fault. Damon's going to update his software, so you try to mitigate those issues going forward. But to be safe, export your presets before you ever do an upgrade of that plugin. And that's not just for Easy Team Builder. That would also be for face crop as well. So anyway, back to this piece. Thank you, Raymond, for that little tip. For the numerical piece, whenever sports photo, Easy Team Builder, I'm still on spot. Whenever Easy Team Builder pulls in the images, it's going to layer the layer name, or it's going to name the layer name. And so depending on what you have here, it will either do it numerical, such as this one right here, row 1, image 1, row 1, image 2, or is going to retain the file name. This is actually no longer accurate. There is a trick to fix that. So just know that that is how it's going to be. If you are building more than one team, or the reason I personally don't like to use numerical is if you're reviewing that team image and you see that some player or kid is blinking or his head's like more to the left and he's just not paying attention, or it's just not a good picture of him, I don't know what that image number is to go look in my files to see, okay, well, what other images do I have this kid that I can put in its place, right? Because it's only telling me row 1, image 1. However, if I use the file name, then I know exactly where to look in my drive of my thousands of extractions for that particular player. So I definitely want to do it this way. And it does make it a little bit easier when you're dealing with multiple teams on a single template. I'm going to show you how to do that, but also how it'll break if you don't do it correctly. So next, this is going to be your layout. Okay. So your layout, a lot of it is exactly as you would think, rows by height, center, tall. That just means you're going to get that pyramid type look. So your taller kid's going to be front and center, right? Or you can get the reverse pyramid where you have the I'll read that in just a second. But rows by height, the center short, you're going to have, it's going to be the reverse pyramid. The center kid is going to be the shortest, and they'll just get bigger as they go out. Rows by height, random. Obviously, it's just going to be sporadic and random, very similar to what you see here, but also by file name. By file name, a lot of people don't understand, trying to figure out how it works. This team right here was built by file name, all right? And as it brought them in, this is the order that the girls were shot. So of course it's going to go, the first image is going to be your first spot, then second spot, third spot, fourth spot. And this is good for storyboarding. So if you have a finished image, like if the team comes to you and be like, we want this image with our team, then you can easily say, okay, well, you tell me what girls want to go where. He gives you that, and you're like, okay, well, she's going to be in this pose. You shoot her first, shoot her second, shoot the third girl third, shoot the fourth girl fourth. Perk of that is if you have that type of structure, you can just do the layout by file name, and it's just going to give it to you, right? It's going to dump everything on there by the file name, and you're going to have the look that you want starting out. Can you do, so Lynn asked, can you do those two and top, and I think he's saying, can you do those top and bottom teams where one row of players are on the top image, then the name and the team is on the image. There's another row under the text. So with Easy Team Builder, no. However, I know what you're talking about, and it can be, it's still going to speed it up. So pretty much you're talking about having a team, a row of a team, the name, and then another row on the bottom. How I do it is I know if, let's say it's going to be 2 rows, right? I'm going to build it with just the 2 rows. It'll give me 2 rows, and all I do is I take that row 2 and I drop it where it needs to go. It's really simple. It's an extra step, but yes, it'll still help you expedite your team building process. But it does not allow you to separate the team because it's only looking for one layer called Easy Team, and wherever that layer is, it's just going to build right on it. You can't say, okay, on this layer, I want the first 2 teams, but on this layer, or the first 2 rows, and on this layer, I want the third and fourth rows. It won't do that. So what you do is you build it all at once, and then you say, okay, take rows 3 and 4, just drag it up and drop it in the folder that you want. That's a good question. Um, Row spacing. So row spacing is exactly like it says. It's how much space do you want in between your rows. Now, in this example, I'm kind of showing you the minimum, the mid, and the extreme. Okay. And you can see just by looking at it how much space is in between each of the rows. And that's all it's going to be changing is your spacing. So very simple. Player scaling is how big are the players going to be in the end. Now, if you look, when you get to smaller spacing, that means you have more space on the edges to play with. So it's going to spread your team out more. But if your players are bigger, you run out of that space and it's going to make it a little bit smaller. And so because of that, since you don't have as much space, you're going to get more overlap between your players. So if you're running like really big teams, like say football, I tend not to run a larger scaling because a lot of football organizations have a ton of players. Now, when they have a ton of players, that means you already have pretty much, let's just go with the typical 5x4, 8 or 10x8 landscape team image. You don't have a lot of room to begin with. So when you shove 80 to 100 players on there, they're super tiny to begin with. If you make them big, they're really going to be overlapping each other. And a lot of the players, they just want to see their numbers so they're easy to find. If they're overlapping, you're going to block some of those numbers on their chest. So leave that a little bit smaller. But again, use it, play with the scaling, figure out what you want, what looks best for you and your style. These are the defaults, I believe, 1.5, 50, 102. And this is just showing you some more of the extremes. This isn't even the extreme. You can actually set scaling to 0, which will make them smaller, and 100, which will still make them bigger. But look, like this girl right here, you know, she's in the back row. She's already getting blocked out. You can't see anything but her head almost. So use your own discretion. Face feet alignment. 0 to 100 are your options. If you think 0 to face and 100 to feet, then anywhere in between is going to be how it aligns. So for example, if you set it to 0 for the face, then notice right here, all of their faces are on line, okay? They're all in a row. If you set it to 100, oops. If you set it to 100, all of their feet are going to be on line right here. But anywhere in between, and what it's going to do is it's going to say pretty much this one's at 50. Notice their feet aren't all aligned and neither are their heads, their faces. It's going to take that middle, pretty much a middle line, and you can go anywhere in between. So I did one, which I'll probably end up doing here later. I set it to like 20 because I wanted the faces to be mostly online, but you can still see the slight sizing, the height differences between the kids. But the height was so drastic that when I set it to 0, it honestly just kind of looked funny. The really short kid just kind of got lost. And if you're doing like a gradient, right, and you have a really short kid, then you're not going to be doing the gradient to like take their knees out. You're actually taking that kid's like waist down out, and it kind of doesn't really look right. So this is where some of that can come in. Set it to 50 and see how that looks. Play with your gradients. If you're doing anything with shadows or reflections, you'll probably almost always use setting it to 100 so that their feet are on line. That's going to give you the most believable and realistic look in the end. And then the perspective. We're all photographers. We hopefully a lot of us have some history with perspective, whether just from art or playing around with this right here. So the further subject is from your camera, the smaller they're going to be in the image. So what this does is it does perspective systematically. Whenever you shoot, your kids are staying at the same exact point every single time. If you set it to 0, you're going to get this really flat look where it just looks like you took that same row and just kind of moved them up. That doesn't look like top row is any further away from the camera than your first row. All right. But if you take it to the 7, now again, this is the extreme, default is 2, then you can get more of a perspective look, a more believable look. Notice how big the top row is here with 0, and then 7 over here, they're much smaller. It's going to be more believable that these taller kids are further away from the image, as if they're standing on bleachers or some sort of scaffolding. Can Pixnub add in shadows and reflections? No, Kylie, they cannot. There are a few actions that are out there that or brushes, but most of those are going to be manual process. Personally, if it's a small enough team, I'll do reflections or shadows myself. If I'm doing a big organization, I'll either not do it at all, because I'll do the 3/4. I'll cut off their legs and kind of fade it out so they blend in. Or if they're insisting that I do actions and reflections, I send it off to Roboku and pay them to do it for me. There are some options out there who will do it for you for, a small fee. Me, time is valuable, so I would rather send it off. That's just me. Okay, AZ Team Builder, what breaks it? Consistency is key. Players must be the same distance from the camera. Okay, so this perfect example right here, I did this one day while on site, waiting for some players to show up. I use a 50mm fixed lens. If you use a zoom lens, I highly suggest you tape it or you lock it down somehow. Because if you zoom in or out, your Easy Team Builder is not going to look the same. It's not going to look right, which I have an example, so we'll take a look at that. Notice where my feet are, okay? Their toes are supposed to be on line, like the second one right here. This is how they're supposed to be standing. But if some kid comes up and he misunderstands and he puts his feet a good 5 inches behind the line, look how much shorter I look now. Obviously, I didn't have a growth spurt in those few seconds, but that's how much of a drastic difference it can be if they're just a few inches off the line. Okay, then here I'm on the line, but look, as I get closer to the camera, it kind of drastically goes up. So it's very important that you have them stand in the same spot every time, and that your camera and your tripod are locked and they do not move. It's a set it and forget it system, and that's going to give you the most consistency. Now, if you use a 35mm, where again, you got to be closer to the subject, and look, as I get closer, it's a much more substantial difference. So if you're using a 35mm, you're going to see these little differences a whole lot more than if you're using, say, an 85mm or 105. I know there's a lot of photographers who really love the 85mm fixed for these. Personally, just because of space requirements of what I have and where they tend to throw me, I will do 50mm. It doesn't matter what lens you choose. What matters is from the start of the job to the end of the job, you use the exact same settings every single time. Okay. So don't shoot let's say you shoot 2-3 days. Don't shoot one day at 35 because they threw you in some locker room, and then the next day they leave you on the gymnasium and you shoot at 50. Don't do that. That's going to give you issues. I'll go back to that one. So this is my setup. This is what I shoot. It is a train that I designed in Photoshop. The file is available if anybody would like to purchase it. Or again, as I said, it's just a Photoshop. I think it's 30 inches or maybe 36 inches by 13 feet. It's a banner. I had it printed with Signs 365. I put my Snap to Time photography on there. But if you look closely, I have up here, this is where they stand. I have a gray line. So if they want to do anything that's not putting their feet on these pre-designated spots, as long as they're on that line, I don't really care. Right here is a black line, and it says, right, you can't read it right here, but it says light 28 inches off center. So I know that my key light is going to go right here on this line, either left side or right side, depending on the style I want, but it's going to be 28 inches off center, and it is 7 feet from the backdrop. So I did my setup one day. I measured everything. And once I had all of my measurements done, I made this file. And then if you move down, obviously I got my little logo here because, hey, you got to brand everything. But down here, I've got this big red spot, and this is where my camera goes. This is the center of my tripod, all right? Center of my tripod goes here. The little bitty text you can't read at the very bottom, those are my camera settings. Those are my settings as a start. Now, I meter everything. So no matter what, if I go on a cloudy day or sunny day or black of night, it doesn't matter because I am metering everything. And I can have the consistency in my images and my lighting. And then from here, it actually doesn't say, but I tend to shoot anywhere from 28 to 32 inches from the floor to the center of my lens. Actually, I think I do to the very bottom of my lens. But it's the same every single time. It is that consistency that allows me to utilize Team Builder and not have to run into the issues that you're going to see as I'm showing you some of these demos. All right. I think I have 2 or 3 demos. One is just, they were shot on different cameras, right? Or they were shot on the same camera 2 different days. And just reach out to me, Kylie. Reach out to me and I'll be able to work with you on getting the banner. You can get it from me, or again, it's 3 feet by 13 feet. But again, I'll get back to that in a second. But for the demos that we're going to do, they're either shot on different days and the cameras weren't at the same settings, or maybe their tripod was a little bit too close. Maybe they used different lenses, or it was all on the same day with they split up the team to 3 different stations and they were shot on 3 different cameras. And you're going to see that it doesn't line up right because each station was not the exact same setup, right? So let's say maybe they shot on a full frame with a 35 millimeter, and then they shot on another one, but they were using a 24 to 70. There was also a full frame, but it wasn't quite exact at 35. Like those, remember, 35, a little bit of difference will show up in your finished product. So you have to keep that consistency. So this banner, again, the key is you got to do your own setup first. It's Kylie. So hopefully I'm saying it right, Kylie. So set up your photo booth stand, or wherever your station. Set up your photo station. Make sure it's exactly how you want it. And then what you want to do is you want to measure everything. Say, okay, my backdrop is here. Where am I having the kids stand? For me, that gray line is 24 inches from the back of the lasso light. That's the recommendation. So I put my gray line right here at the top. It is 24 inches from where that train touches that black piece at the bottom. And so I do it like this because also it helps with extractions if it's just white to white, okay? And make sure that when you do your feet or you do this gray line, it is so light that they can see it, but it's not going to cause your AI extractions, or even if you use Pixnub image extract, it's not going to think it's part of the image, right? If you use a different color, it might think it's a platform or something they're standing on. It might not always remove it. I keep it light, keep it gray. That really helps with my extractions. I have never once had any of this left over once I did the extraction. But then from there, okay, well, from my backdrop to the center line of where my light is, so between my backdrop and my camera, it is 7 feet from the backdrop, right? I make sure it's in line. I mark exactly where it's going to be. This is where my middle line needs to be. And then I measure from the center of my light tripod to here, how far is it? And you want to do the same thing with your own station. While this will work if you use a 50 millimeter and I'm using a Nikon full frame, but if you're using a 50 millimeter fix, this is going to get you super close to what you need if you want to use my kind of style. Again, everybody's got their own styles. And then, but since it is a Photoshop file, you can adjust it, right? You can buy the file, I'll give it to you. Everything in here is adjustable. You just move the layers. So let's say instead of 7 feet, you want 7.5 feet. Well, just take this and drop it down some. Move this around to work for your station. All right. Again, these settings, these are all just layers in a Photoshop file. Just edit them till they fit yours, put your logo on there. If you don't like this feet setup, then use a different one. However you want to do it, just modify it to work with your setup. This again is mine. That's my actual station when I was shooting a basketball team, which I actually have another basketball team to shoot on Monday. But yeah, this is the key one. This is one key tool that I have to keep that consistency. And I know that if I follow everything down to the T, I can show up at 27 different locations. I can set up every single time and my images will be perfect. I'll be able to take an image from one kid from every shoot on those 27 locations, and it will look like I shot them all on the same day, because the consistency is key. And if you're not consistent, then your images are going to reflect when you're using Easy Team Builder. All right. This is just a key tip that I kind of threw in at the end. Whenever you're building, if you put top at the beginning of the image file name, it's going to default, or it's going to put them at the top. So let's say you shot some coaches and maybe you got a really short coach. And sometimes you have players that are shorter than that coach. If you don't put top on it, the coaches are going to be mixed in with the team, and then you have to manually move them up. And maybe you got a really tall kid who's up here with the coaches. You're going to have to like switch them out, and it's going to do more manual on your part. So this is a little trick. Just prefix top to any coaches if you want them in the top row, and it's going to put them up there. All right, so Tom, hey, more than happy to share what knowledge I have. Yes, you will be able to watch this later. It is a Facebook Live. So if you go to the events page of Pixnub, the user group, then you will be able to see each of these demos. Or you'll be able to rewatch the whole thing. So now we're going to get into the demo piece. So let's get started. I'm just going to start with just a simple landscape image. Okay. I'm not going to do it in a template this time. I'll do that in a little bit. Now, to use Easy Team Builder is going to look for a layer called Easy Team. If you don't have Easy Team, I will show you. And you hit Build Team, it's going to say, hey, the document needs to have a layer named Easy Team. It has to be a layer, not a group folder, which the current document does not have. All right, so let's fix that. We're going to create our new layer. We're just going to say Easy Team. So what I want to do is now I'm going to go to my cutouts folder and I'm going to select what folder has all of my images. So if I show you, this is all of my images, okay? And again, I put top for my coaches because I want them in the top row. And I look and I'm like, okay, I know I have 7 coaches. I want them all to be in the top row. So my top row is going to be 7. So let's go ahead and see what we get to work with. So this is my folder. I'm going to select that folder. Do I have a preset I want to do? I'm going to do team build. Now the team build, again, as I said, it only saves everything you have right here. So it is saved my layer name. It's going to show them by file names because that's how I like to do it. Because that lets me, if I have a bad player in there and I need to go find their images quick, I can just go in here and be like, okay, well, do I have any more of this kid? Yes or no, and then I can just drag him in and replace that image manually. Rows by height, I want to do center tall, okay? And then my overlap, I also want the center guy in the front, but you have some other ones, right? Right in front, left in front, center in front, and then alternating or random. So I'm going to do center front. Row spacing, I'm just going to leave at 1 right now. Scaling, I like my players to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to leave this one at 80 and just see what it looks like. You're going to notice Easy Team Builder is pretty fast. So this is a great tool to use to figure out how big you want your players to be. You'll see it's going to build this team in like 2 minutes. There are 30 images in here. If you don't like the way it looks, well, just delete it and then change your settings and try it again. That's one of the glorious things about using Easy Team Builder. Face feet align. I think we got some fairly short kids in here, so it's just so that we don't have it looking really off. I'm going to keep them a little bit taller. So I'm going to do, let's go more to the face. All right, so I'm going to set it to 20. So you see a little bit of variation. It's not going to be like all faces are perfectly on line. And then perspective, I'll just leave it to, honestly, when it comes to perspective, I don't think I've ever changed it from 2. It just looks good as is. So when you hit build team, what it's going to do is it's going to go look at that image, that folder of images. It's going to catalog the images, and then it's going to give you a suggestion of what it thinks it would look good as far as how many rows you would have. And you can change this. So let's say you just want them all on a single row, right? Like you're doing a really cool long pano, just super long. You can put them all on the same row. You just have to make sure that these match up, okay? There's 30 images in the folder and there's 30 images assigned to rows. So I'm going to do it again. So I know my top row has 7 though. So I'm going to change these so that I have all of my coaches in my top row. And then in the end, I have my row assignments and I have 30 players. And then all you have to do is just say continue and let the magic work. The bigger the team is, the longer it'll take. What it's doing is kind of opening up each image and it's basically creating a list of how tall those images are, because whenever it brings everything in, it's going to have to know how to sort everything. Okay. So right now it's just going through verifying that the images exist, verifying that it's workable, and then it's going to capture some metrics so that once it pulls everything into the finished product, it'll be able to sort it exactly as you wanted to in your settings. Now notice it's only been running for maybe, 30 seconds, and we're almost done with the cataloging piece, and then it's going to dump everything into your template. So right now so this is actually our template right here. I know it's a blank template, but if you were working on an actual template, you would see your actual template right here. So now it's pulling all of the images in. Notice over on the right, it's actually building your rows for you, because it knows where every kid is supposed to go now. Now it's resorting to make sure that the center guy is in front. Okay. So now I have all of my coaches up top and I have all of my players. That was not very difficult to do. If you look over here on the right in your layers, you now have each row you have each row. So right here, if you right click on this kid, you see row 1 and then it has the image file name. That is because we selected to do file names. It doesn't say row 1, player 1. It actually gives me the kid's file name. Same thing here. But you can see all of the rows. So that is the first one. That's pretty much how you do it for all your teams, right? If you have the consistency, you don't have to worry about scaling issues. Okay, so this is your team. We'll just name this one Demo 1. And then I'll hide it. So now we're going to go into Demo 2, right? And this is, again, all the players that we have. Now, this is not the exact same. This is more of a dynamic posing style. And we can play with this one a few different ways. It's a small team. It's not going to take long to build. So let's see what we can do with it. See what happens when we do by file name or center tall or anything like that. So for this one, for the overlap, I'll still do center front. Or no, let's do alternating on this one. And then for the layout, let's do it by file name. The row spacing, I'm going to put them all on a single row, so this really doesn't matter. I'm going to leave them kind of tall. Face, feet aligned. Let's say this one, since I'm doing a whole pano, I do want to see their feet. I'm going to set it to feet aligned, okay? So if 0 is face, so it's 0 to 100. So I think 0 is left, that's your face. Feet is to the right, so it's going to be 100. So we're going to set this to 100 so it aligns to the feet. I'm going to leave the perspective because we're only dealing with one row. It doesn't matter. And then I'm going to build the team. It says, hey, for 10, let's go 0, 10. Hit continue, and it's going to build that. Kylie says, I've noticed that your extractions on a white background when I use Skylab. Right now, I choose the PSD option, which but in a layer with a transparent background, you suggest a different extraction option through Skylab that works better with Pixnub. Extract with spill removal definitely works great. In my experience, as long as your backdrop is not shooting too hot, you're going to get super clean extractions using Skylab, or Enhance as they call it now. You can do extract and spill removal. I know a few photographers who use that. I've used it before as well. I tend to go the color and extract route. But both work great. I think extractable spill removal will help you get a little bit crisper if for what you're doing possibly. All right, so here is our team as it was built. They're a little bit close together, right? So we'll just call this one Demo 2, and we'll say this was scaling 80, right? I'm going to do it again, only I'm going to reduce the scaling some. And remember, with the scaling, it's going to make the kids a little bit smaller, but you still have the same width, so it has more room to spread out some. And it doesn't take long, especially like small teams of 8, 9, 10, even up to like 15. Your system, it doesn't take long on the system at all. So you can definitely run it a few times to figure out exactly how you want your settings to be for that job. So if you look right here, right? You'll notice they are smaller just by size. You see the girl on the left right there. The size is different. But also if you look how much overlap you have right here on this girl versus right up here, right? You have a lot less overlap. So you can actually see more of the girls. Like she's starting to get hidden behind these two. She's less hidden in this one. So that's kind of how the scaling you can use that to your advantage, right? If you're dealing with long panos, you know, your 3-to-1 ratios, then you definitely, in my opinion, you'd want to spread them out just a little bit more. So this can be demo 2 scaling 80 or scaling 60, right? Now we're going to do another one. I'm going to hide both of those. I'm going to do it again, only this time instead of doing by file name, let's just do center tall. Okay, we're going to build it using 60 again. Just see what it looks like. And not only will you see what it looks like, but you're also going to see how the finished product differs because we're no longer doing it by file name. Remember in the slideshow, whenever I did by file name, I put that first image first, the second image second, third image third, and so on. Well, this time it's actually going to compare the heights, and it's going to make sure the tallest girl's in the middle, and then it should come down slightly. See, we got that little bit of a pyramid effect now. So there's our easy team finish there. We're going to do our 60 here. And you can see this girl is no longer on the left. She's been moved over because there's another girl shorter than her, technically. So that's how it can differ in how you can change your workflow to get the results that you want. All right, so we've shown you a few different ways of how you can go from general consistency like this. That means you run in kind of the same pose for every player. You're going to get really good consistency. So notice in here though, the numbers are kind of hidden. So if you want to move these up, this is where your row spacing will come into play. Take it from 1 to 1.5 or 2, and it's going to make it taller and put more space in between them. So now you'll be like, you can't see this kid's number at all. If they want to see their numbers, put more space in between your rows. And so that way for football teams especially, you'll be able to see the numbers. And then we kind of showed the different ways that playing with the settings will change the final result. I'm going to do one more of this, only I'm going to do it to the face, just so you can see how drastic of a change that is as well. Because we saw we had that pyramid, so now we're going to get that reverse pyramid. So pretty much their feet are going to be the pyramid, right? Their head should be all on line, but since you got the shorter kids and you're moving them up, their feet should come up, so it's going to be more like this. If you're running a template where you're hiding the feet anyway, it's not a big deal because you can easily just mask it out. Right? So see, we got that kind of a reverse pyramid here. And then if I really wanted to, I can just mask with my gradient tool and do that. And so now I have them. You're a lot really won't even be able to quickly tell that this girl is so much shorter than this girl just by looking at it, because you kind of put them all on the same plane right here. So now that we've seen how consistency gives you great issues, now let's run into sizing issues. So for example, this one was shot with, so I fabricated this one. This one was actually shot well, but what I did was I simulated that they were shot at different focal lengths, right? This girl's closer than this girl, right? Because they're stood in the same spot, but they're using different focal lengths. Or they move closer to the camera, which essentially gives you the same result. So we're going to do the size issue on this one, and we're going to build our team. Oh, hold on. I want to change this back to, I'll just use my regular team build. Face feet align. Let's go align to the feet on this one. Row spacing, yep, build team. And we are using a scaling of 80 on this one. So they should have a decent amount of overlap between the girls. Let's see what they look like. So this is what you can expect if you do not have the consistency in your shooting. So like these girls right here are actually at the right size. But for whatever reason, these girls are smaller, these girls are bigger. That's going to be an example. I'll just do size issue 1 here. And then for the next one, if you look, these have different image names, right? So this one has an image of 16.1, this one has an image of 168, and this one has IMG. This is the same team shot on 3 different cameras. So let's see what that one looks like. Same team, 3 different cameras. I'm running the exact same settings I did before. I'm going to put, we'll do 4 and 4. We'll do 2 rows. And we're going to see what it comes up with. Now, they could be shot on different days with different cameras, or they could be all on the same day with 3 different stations, 3 different setups. And you're going to be able to see what happens if not everything is set up consistently. Okay. So, looks like this team up, this row up here, you got one kid who's super tall. We got this kid who looks quite a bit bigger than he should be as well. Coach looks small. Actually, he looks like he's in line with this bottom row right here. But this kid is way off. As well as this one. He's probably right. But these two are definitely off. And look, that's the shot at 168. That one shot at _5C is the file name. That's your IMG. And these are all your 16.1s. Oh no, he's an IMG as well. But the consistency is not there between your stations, and that is why you're going to see these types of issues. All right, I think I closed out my... I did. Hold on. I gotta find my demo folder. We are on... No, not sports mode. Easy, team builder, size issue V2. All right, let's look at another one. So this is going to be size issue 2. Notice how every demo, all I'm doing is I'm renaming it and I'm hiding it. I'm going to show you why here soon. So this next one doesn't look like, look at where their feet are. If all these are the same, their feet are different. She's higher than these girls. So obviously I know it's going to be wrong, but just by looking at it like that, I'm also expecting it to be wrong. Like, let's say this was given to me by another photographer, which it was. This is a really old job. So we're just going to build this. We'll say it's 12, 543. Yeah, you know what? Why not? We'll do 543. Only I want to do 60. Let's make him a little smaller. Still going to align to the feet, though. And we're going to let that run. Does anybody have any specific questions so far, or does this demonstration, show you more of what to look out for and how this will or will not work for your current workflow. If you shoot handheld, I would not suggest Easy Team Builder for you, because you're going to get these issues, right? Because you're not going to be consistent, but also if you're just a few inches forward or back from where you are, it's going to throw off the final product. All right, so here's our Easy Team finished build here. Looks like we got two girls who are off, which we expected. And then I have one more that I want to do. We'll say this size issue 3. Update my cutouts folder to my next one. We're going to do 4 and 4 and see how this turns out. Oh, yep, there we go. So this kid right here, shot underscore 5C, IMG 0735. This is actually the same one we did earlier. But notice, shot on multiple cameras. So you can shoot on multiple cameras. You really can. There are going to be slight fluctuations. Even if you use the same equipment on all 3 stations, same lighting, same everything, you're not going to get 100% accuracy. But you can get it close enough to where it will look okay. Recommendation is that you never split up a team amongst your stations. So keep track. Hey, this team, you were shot at station A. Any people who show up late, send them to station A so that you're getting the consistency of the team. One more thing that I kind of wanted to show you. Yeah, we'll do that. I don't have that demo, but I can show you. One more thing I wanted to show you here is that notice all of the teams that I've done so far are up above the Easy Team layer. What happens if you do it below? Let's say I add a folder down here. Let's say I'm in the middle of building teams. And I'm going to just call this one finished, because I'm going through just building team after team after team. So now I have this folder. Let's say I've already built this team, but I go back and I add another one. If I try to build the same team again, because we built the same team a few times up here, right? Or not the size issue, the demo 2 scaling. We built this 3 different times and we never ran into an issue. But that's because these folders that are finished are up above our Easy Team layer. If I create a finished folder and I move them down below it, this is going to be what happens. So I'm going to run the team 1 again. Actually, no, I'm going to run team 2 just so it doesn't take as long to run. This is the green softball team. There's only 10 images. And I'm going to build, I'm just going to hit continue because I'm expecting it to not do what I want it to. We're going to find out. I tested this earlier and it did operate exactly as I thought it would. So now that I'm live, hopefully it does the same thing. It's probably going to call me a liar, but we'll see. If you have the team image down below, it runs into an issue when it comes time to place everything. Yeah, it did call me a liar on that one. I legitimately tested this earlier. Oh, it's probably because I already have an Easy Team finished in here. But no, yeah, it did mess up too because they're not all in the same folder. I already had Easy Team finished folders up here. Oh, that's why. Duh. That's my fault. I need to move one of these down here into the finished You know what? I'm just going to move all of them. Let's get rid of this. Let's move everything down here into finished. So now this is what I want to run. I had the wrong team down there in finished, so I messed myself up in my demo. The point is, whenever you have your teams that you've already built below that easy team folder, you're going to run into issues whenever it kind of drops it onto the finished product. And the reason is it is looking for the file, the layer names by name. And what it's doing, see now it says it's finished, and that's our finished product. That is not what we're looking for. Okay. That's not what I'm looking for at all. All the girls are there, but they're not sorted, they're not scaled, they're not doing anything. Because, and Damon, I believe, told me, and if he ever sees this, I hope he confirms it, whenever it is searching for files or these layers by name, it actually starts from the bottom. So what it's doing is it's actually finding these layers down here because we did it by layer name. These layer names already exist in some of these previous ones. So yeah, now look. If I get rid of everything, this is what it did to the previous one that we did before. That's not how I left it. So it still did the resizing and the transforming, only it did it on the wrong layer. So, Steven, you did 2,500 in a single easy team? That's crazy. Or did you do it through Sports Photo Automation? I couldn't imagine doing 2,500 in an easy team builder. So what it did is it did a search by the layer. It found it, only it found it down here, not in where I want it. Because it's starting from the bottom of the document and it's scrolling up or searching up until it finds the layer that it's looking for. So as long as your finished is on top, like this, right? So I can still finish. Now I'm gonna have to get rid of this one because that is not what I need. Then you're gonna be able to move on and do what you need. So let's do this in more of a real world scenario. So I have, let's say I've got a league, right? And I've already got them sorted into teams. I used the Photo Zombie toolkit, the PDZ toolkit, to separate everything into teams. So I didn't have to do it by hand. And now that I have all of my images sorted into teams, I'm ready to build my template or my teams. So this is what I'm using right here. I've got my easy team. So the team subject, this is one team by Don Ward. I've got it kind of ready for the team build. I made a few modifications. I've got my actions built for my colors. I'm ready to build my teams. I have my easy team. Here, you can actually see what it looks like right there. That's my team that worked that day. I'm ready to build. So let's go ahead and build some teams. Again, easy team builder. I'm going to select my cutouts folder. I'm going to select my preset. So for this one, I'm just going to do a team build. It's set at 75, so it's mostly feet aligned. It's below half, right? So it's going to be mostly feet aligned versus mostly face aligned. And we're just going to build it that way. Go ahead and build team. I like that distribution. It's 6'5". A larger amount of players on the bottom, smaller amount of players on the top. If they're running a odd number. While that's doing that, let me go to, since she wants to see if you get a bad image, I need to go find where this job is. This was JYL Spring Soccer, I think. Yeah, this one was brutal. I think this one was also in like pure daylight. But let's go up here and I'm going to say, hey, this is going to be orange. Oh, it helps if I selected orange when I did it. And then looking at the team, this is the Blazers. And then I come in here, select this team. And then what I do is you have to make sure, this is pretty much the only requirement you have when building multiple teams, is you need to rename this folder to something else. I'm going to name it Blazers. I'll save that off, and then what I like to do is I like to hide it. So if I ever have to go back and change anything, I can. All right, so now we have the Blue Dragons. I'm going to go back to my easy team builder. Now, let's say I already saved that one off as a JPEG, right? Go here. And this is essentially simulating me building teams for a league. I'm just going to do build team. I'm going to start this. Just going to bring everything in. This is the Blue Dragons. And I'm already looking like, okay, their main color is light blue. I think this team actually came after their game. So we have Carolina Blue right here. Change this to Blue Dragons. Drop this down a little bit from 160 to 120. Now, they're a little big on the second row, so I might, I'll move her out some. I'll space them out a little bit by hand because there's only a few of them I can do that. Take row 2, drop them down a little bit more. Bring the whole thing in some. I will save that off, and then I'm going to rename this to Blue Dragons. Now, let's say that, I don't know, this kid's hair is all jacked up, right? So, this is kind of what I said earlier. When I'm looking, if this just said row 1, image 4, that wouldn't help me find out where this girl is. However, I've got the file name, so I can go to SMP 7924, and I can go over here, say, okay, 79, let's say I want to pull in 25. So what I do is I will select on this girl, I'll drag the other image in there. Okay, she's smiling. I'll size her up accordingly. Pretty much drop her right where she is. And I either just hide the old one or whatever. And it's as simple as that to replace an image. And since over here, it's got the same file name, right? As the file name of what I brought in. So I don't have to worry about it saying like image 1 or anything. So if I ever have to go back, it's easy enough. Does this work if you have players kneeling? Say you wanted them in the very front row. Is there a way to tell it in front or first row, just like you did with the coaches at the top? Not that I'm aware of. That's a good question. It's actually on my list to ping Damon about. However, if you're doing it by height anyway, technically the shorter ones who are kneeling are going to be in the front row anyway. Because a lot of it's going to be height based, unless you're doing it by file name. Whenever you're in your settings right here, remember how we did layout rows by height? If you do layout by file name, then it won't guarantee they're in the front unless you shot all your kneeling players first. But if you do it, any of them by height, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, or probably 99 times out of 100, your kneeling players are going to be shorter than all the other standing players. So yes, this will also work for kneeling players if you want them in the first row. But so like now that I'm done with the Blue Dragons, all I got to do is just keep going. right? I can build 40, 50 teams in what? An hour or two? So this is 6, so I'll do 3 and 3. Build this one out. And this is how you can build multiple teams on a single template as well. Now, everybody asks, is there a way to batch this? No, there is not. Get my row 2, bring them down some. You leave them nice and big. So these are the Char Little FC. Okay. So we got Char Little FC, and then I'm going to run my red action to make it nice. Save that off. Come over here. Char Little FC. And then I'm just going to hide it. So now, one of the reasons I do it this way is after you have posted something live and somebody comes up after the fact and they're like, hey, say they misspelled the team name or something when they gave it to you on your roster, right? Instead of having to go back and rebuild that team, like, oh man, I got to rebuild the Blazers, I just go or the Blue Dragons, I just go bring them up, go to my actions, hit my Carolina Blue, rename this to the correct name, and then I'm done. Then I go back, rerun my memory mates, post everything, and then it's good to go. But since I have everything already here, then I'm able to just really quickly go back and make changes. But as of right now, and from what I know, there is no intention to batch edit the teams. The reason for that is, if you've noticed, I've had to make changes as I'm doing this. Like, it comes in, it gives me what I said earlier. It gives you the base foundation of your team image, and then you make your adjustments and you update everything to look exactly like you want, and then you save it off. If you were to batch that, it would not work because it would save off the finished product and you'd still have to go back and redo it, or you'd still have to go back and even touch everything a second time to make sure it's correct. I do believe he has some future plans to make building teams in Easy Team Builder a little bit faster and easier, but they haven't got here yet. But if they do, Photo de Zombie Toolkit is ready for it. That's pretty much all the demos that I had. Is there anything else that you guys want to see in particular in regards to Easy Team Builder? Or do you have any other questions that you guys want to try to address? And Steven, I'm still waiting on you. You said you had ran through 2,500 images with no problem. I'm curious about that. But we can run. Let's see. If I were to go in here, there's a Char Little, I'm going to hide that. I'm going to build one with a lot. It's 150 images. And I'm just going to sit here and wait. Now we're going to see, I mean, you can easily do it with 150 images, I'm sure. I mean, not only that, I'm running streaming software right now. I've got other programs up in the background. So this PC is kind of a workhorse. I don't see it having any issues building 150 teams. But we can also see how long it takes. It's 1 o'clock right now. Let's see how long it takes to build 150 players on a single team. Kylie, you feel confident in your ability to make this work for you? I know you're kind of new to it, but this is one of those tools that's going to make your life so much easier when it comes to building for these large volume organizations. One minute in, we're at 32. I have a feeling it's going to be like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. It won't be too long. Yes. So the question that Kylie just asked is, do you create an action to change the color for each template? The fact you change the colors that quick amazes me. I will go into each layer that has a color and try to copy and paste that color number to each one. Yes. So if you are dealing with a template to where you have to make multiple color changes, I highly recommend just doing it by an action. The great thing about doing it by an action is if your templates are similar across the board, and I'm going to do I'm going to do an office hours just on actions and how I do them and how you can save yourself a ton of time. But as long as you have the same layer names amongst all your templates, your action will run the same. For example, let's say I have this action right here, right? This action changes those two layers from red to green to blue to whatever color I want. I want to run the same action on a 4x5, and it has maybe one or two, let's say it has a player number on there as well. What I would do is in this template right here, I would create a folder and hide it, and then put those extra layers in there. So I would have a layer in here for like first name and last name and number. And I would have that action change my background, my team name, that first name, that last name, and the number. Even though they're hidden, it's still going to update the colors. And why? Because now when I want to run that action on the 4x5, it has all the same layers. That means it'll run. Now, if you have an action that's created for my 4x5, right? My individual, so it's got my first name, last name, team name, everything. And I try to run that in this one, which is missing the first name and the last name and the number, it's going to error out because it is looking for a layer that doesn't exist. So that's going to be the trick to the consistency in your templates. And I'm going to go over a whole demo on that of how I do it personally. And when I do that demo, I'm going to also show you how to use it in Sports Photo Automation so that you can run the automation. It'll actually call those actions for you so that in the end, you will run out with, I think I have it like this right here, right? This right here, the running actions in the background to give me those different colors. I ran these through Sports Photo Automation in that previous office hours that I did, or last week actually. And I did that by this CSV right here, right? Right here, the post action. And right here, on paper, it is called on paper purple, on paper gold. And it is running everything just like that. So if you're shooting handheld, yeah, that's definitely not going to work for Easy Team Builder. It'll work great for Sports Photo Automation. Sports Photo Automation, you don't need that consistency because it's handling each image individually. But when you're wanting to do Team Builder, then yes, you have to keep the consistency. Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, reach out. You know where to find me. All right, so we're still building, I think. All right, so right now we're in the adding images. So it's been roughly 5 minutes elapsed for 150 images. Now, all I did is I went back to my initial Pixnub demo. Which one is it? Job prep. Nope. Easy team builder, team one. Notice I just make copies. I just copied them all and pasted them 4 times. So we're going to have a bunch of duplicates in there, but that's the easiest way I know of to make it a whole lot of images. $107, $108, and here soon we should start seeing it go through and put everything in their place. And again, you see how long it's taking for this. If I was running this on my Mac, it would be going faster. On average, it honestly runs about 20-30% faster. And the new M4 Mac Mini using the M4 processor is even faster than the previous version, which is running the M2 processor. So I'll have to do a side by side one day. And they're small. It's only like this big. Like the Mac, I have it right here. It's on my desk, but I don't want to unplug it to show you. But they're really small. It's about 2 inches tall and only about that wide. All right, so now it's going through in 7 minutes. Doing a whole bunch of sorting. There you go. So if you had a bigger organization, right? There's your teams. 8 minutes. 8 minutes to add 150. But it looks great. All of my coaches are top and center, just like I wanted them, because again, they're prefixed with that top before the image. And it looks great. So Easy Team Builder, it's pretty simple, but very powerful. All I can suggest is get a single team that you have, play with the settings, figure out what works for you, find out your style of what you want your finished product to look like, and just play with it. So, any other questions before we sign off? I don't have anything else to cover. I think we've kind of touched on everything. I'll try to reach out to Damon to see if there's a way to force any to the bottom. I want to say there is. I wonder if there's a bottom to force it to the bottom. I'll have to see. There might be. Seems like it would be easy enough to do that. But all right, guys, if you guys don't have anything else, I hope that you're able to learn something or got the gears going in your mind, how to streamline your workflow. Again, consistency is key when dealing with Easy Team Builder. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I think if you rename the files with row and the row number, it does. Huh. I guess I'll be doing some testing to see. I'll also touch base with Damon to see if there's any specifics that aren't advertised, because he likes to put in some hidden nuances in there. But I'll reach out to him, and then what I know and what I learn, I'll definitely share with you guys. But that's all I got. It's lunchtime, so definitely get some lunch, get some food. If you want to go back and rewatch this again, It is going to be saved. It is under the events of the, it's under the events page of the Pixnub forum. So happy editing. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.